Hello there guys, it's Dino Man here, and no, the title of the video does not deceive you. Reviews are back. Hopefully for a while again. But there is an important change to the reviews and how I will be reviewing them. If you want that update, then stay tuned here. If you don't care, you just want to see the review, then skip to that time right there, and then that will take you to me just reviewing it. So the first thing that I need to cover is you guys can now request reviews. I'm making that a thing because before I had like a schedule and things I wanted to do. I've now thrown that out the window and I'm like, you know what? I'll just do reviews that people request. They won't only be reviews that people request, but it is something that you can do now. So feel free to request reviews. However, do know that if I've already done it, of course I won't review it again, so I'll just direct you to the, I'll send you a link to the review I've already done of it, or I'll just tell you go and check the playlist area, depending on how lazy I'm feeling. And, of course, if I don't own a figure, I can't review it because I don't own it, so just also be aware of that. So I would recommend checking out some of my, collection update videos that are in the update playlist on my channel, just to see the kind of figures I currently have, or seeing unboxing videos, and that can also help give you an idea of the figures that I have. And then the next thing is, pretty much all structure to the review is going to be thrown out the window, because I think the structure is what was making the reviews so long, and I don't have time to do long reviews anymore. So the reviews are going to be a lot shorter, and there will still be the kind of category things, but instead it'll just be one big overall out of 10 rank that I will give them. Anyway, update done. Now, of course, let's get on with the review. This is our first requested figure, requested many times by King Egypticus. He's a great guy. You should totally check out his channel. He will probably comment down in the comment section, so I'd check him out. He makes great videos. We are, of course, reviewing the famous 2017 Safari Ltd Giganotosaurus, better known in this community as the Gigazebrasaurus. So, of course, now let's just dive into it. So, I personally think that this is the best figure Safari Ltd made for 2017. And you can easily tell by looking at the figure, and I of course will explain this. The Feathered Tyrannosaurus is a close second. The thing that I will give it is it has a much more like an epic pose, like it's standing up, roaring. It has some great feather looking. It looks a lot more epic than this thing necessarily does. But the thing that drives the Safari Ltd Feathered Rex down for me is the fact that the paint chips so easily. Because I don't know if I've ever said this before, but paint chips on figures drive me insane. They just ruin the figure for me. It doesn't have to be a bunch of paint chips on it. It ruins it for me. But this guy, however, does not have the same paint chipping issues that the Safari Rex has. And I have to back the camera out a bit because he is very long and I cannot turn him without bumping him into the side. The only paint chip he has so far is just right there on the base of his tail that you can't even really see because it just kind of blends in, which of course is very, very nice. The pose is something that is very, very impressive on this figure. Just look at the curvature. This is some nice curvature, and he really looks like he's leaning to the side. I mean, this is just, it's incredible. The pose, I have not seen a figure, past or present, that has a pose as dynamic as this guy has. It is amazing, and it's all due to the base. This is what Giganotosaurus says this as well. This is what bases do. Bases drive some people crazy, and I can understand that, but I think bases are a good thing, because as you can see here, he can have this amazing, epic pose, and have that without falling over because of the base. Even with the base, you can tell he leans a lot to this side, and without the base, he would 100% fall on this side all the time. There's no possible way this guy could stand without the base. So the base does wonders and is what makes this figure amazing. And you can see even like all of of course, the skin wrinkling to the side. It was more wrinkle on that side as it moves. The tongue on the inside is wet. Well, of course not actually wet, but it has a glossy paint on it that gives it that nice wet look. If the camera's picking it up, I'm trying to show it the best that I possibly can. Oh no, it went out of focus. There we go. I'll just have a flashlight. See that in there? That's a nice shiny tongue that he's got right there. The roof of the mouth, unfortunately, if you can see that, is not shiny. It's just matte, which is a bit disappointing, but you know what? Most of the time you can't see the roof of the mouth, though I'm fine with giving him that. Another thing that impresses me about the figure is the musculature in the leg. Just the way it looks on this side, and the way it's sculpted differently. There's like, you know, a divot in here, as certain muscles are flexing, and that's not present here. And this muscle is bigger as this one's contracting or not. I don't really know terminology for muscles, but you can tell it just looks gobsmackingly beautiful. That's the only word I can say. The musculature in the thigh region is just amazingly done. I just cannot commend this figure enough. The base is painted. Oh, the base is painted. It's not super well painted, just has like a wash that went over it, but still more than Collecta does with their bases, which I think is absolutely amazing. The claws aren't weathered, unfortunately, but you know what? They're there, and they're not just black. They're actually white, which is a fairly unique-ish kind of color. The eyes are gold. They have the correct, like, bumps on the skull. It's an amazing figure, guys. It really is. The detail, they made up for its lack of scales, which a bunch of crosses and whatever. I can understand the lack of scales. This guy was a pretty big animal. You probably couldn't see the scales all that well on the actual animal. However, it should be known that Giganotosaurus, at the very least his review of it, said that this thing has no accuracy issues. That is not true. It is 2 definite accuracy issues, and maybe a third, but I'm not too sure about that one, so we're going to go over them real quick. The one I'm not too sure about is the length of his tail. One thing that is immediately obvious to me the second that I got him is his tail is massively long. I measured it just now. It is 1 inch longer than his body. The tail is 8 inches long and his body is only 7 inches long. That is a massive tail he's got there, but I'm not too sure of how well our knowledge of the vertebrae in the tail goes, so I guess maybe it could have been that long, but I don't really know about that, so I'm going to consider that maybe inaccurate. But the other 2 things I'm definitely sure are inaccurate. First up is the claws. The claws are one thing that drives me crazy about this figure, and it's one thing that I really truly dislike about this figure. It's the only thing I dislike, though, thankfully, but the claws don't look realistic at all. They really don't. The arms are the right length, but the hand region is just bad. First up, every single finger is exactly the same length, which it shouldn't be. I don't think on any dinosaur all the fingers were the same length. They were varying lengths. And the claws are just like, what's up with the claws? The claws don't even look like claws. They look like I'm quoting Kikizilla here in his review of it. They look like Freddy Krueger claws. They don't look realistic at all. They just are giant sticks that stick out, and they barely curve, and they're not sized correctly, and they're massive. They're massive claws. They're huge. Which, I mean, I guess we don't necessarily know how big they were because we don't have the cartilage of them, but they're definitely shaped wrong. It's just they're bad. They're bad, and I hate hating on figures, but it's a fact of them. I'm very sorry, but that's just something that I dislike about it. The other thing that is inaccurate about it, which doesn't really bug me, the claws are the only thing that bugs me about this figure, that Kikizilla actually pointed out in his review, and it's the only reason why I know about it, is the skull is shaped wrong as far as how tall it is. It's not tall enough. The skull needs to be taller. The length of it's right, but it needs to be about maybe like there. It needs to be a taller skull for what this is. It's too short is the word I'm looking for. It's too short. It needs to be taller. But other than that, this figure hits all the hallmarks for a Giganotosaurus, and it's really, really good. They even made it so that the feet are directly underneath the body, as they would have been. It's perfect. Those are the only issues with it, and granted, the claws are the thing that drive me crazy, but the other two things are very minor issues, so they're completely fine. Overall, for the end review of this review, which I think has gone on a lot longer than I planned, I give this Giganotosaurus by Safari Ltd a 9 out of 10. That is not a very shabby grade, at the very least. Grade, but ranking, that's the word I'm looking for. It's not a very shabby ranking. It's really, really good. The only reason why it gets driven down is it has a couple accuracy issues, and the claws are just not very good. They're not superb, but the rest of it's great. The pose is amazing. It's the best pose I've ever seen. It easily gets a 10 out of 10. The paint job is also pretty good. It's got nice striping. I love the striping. It's cool, and it's got nice shades and blah, 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 blah. And the detailing is a little lacking, but I give it credit because, you know what? For the size of the animal, it kind of makes sense, and the accuracy is pretty good with just a couple minor nitpicks, but the most of it is absolutely amazing. I highly, highly recommend you to buy this figure. It's a great figure. It will go perfectly in your collection, and it's amazing. If you want to purchase this, you can go to varying websites, everythingdinosaur.com, djenkins.com, or Safari Ltd's website, Amazon. You get the idea. Though I personally would discourage you from buying it on Amazon because figures you get from Amazon don't always come in the most perfect of condition, but you know what? If that's the only option you have, you can totally buy it there. But yeah, that's it for this review of the Safari Ltd Giganotosaurus, and I will see you in future reviews. Goodbye!